So thank you for making it again. And if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your role at Soda.
Sure. My role at SODA, I'm the student engagement coordinator. So, I essentially serve as a mentor to our student leaders. And I currently live in New Orleans, although I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area. I went to school at Tulane University and majored in public health. So, that's how I learned a little bit about organ donation.
And so what encouraged you to become more involved in organ donation in particular? Because I feel like a lot of people learn about it, but not everybody goes to the lengths I feel like you have to sort of devote more of their time towards it. And what made you sort of choose Soda as a place where you wanted to devote your time?
Yes. So I mentioned I was a public health major in college, which is, I think, where I learned a little bit more formally about organ donation, although I was registered when I got my license at 16. So when I was a junior at Tulane, I interned with the Gift of Life Bone Marrow Registry, which is another organization in the field. And I served a similar role to what our student leaders at SODA do today, where I would swab students and encourage them to join the bone marrow registry, which is a little different than the general organ donation registry. But I think that's where I got most of my work experience in the organ donation field prior to joining SODA. So when I was doing my initial job search last May, when I had first graduated college, I was kind of looking all over the place, but knew I was interested in nonprofit work. And SODA stood out on LinkedIn to me, is where I saw the initial posting for my role. So I got in touch with them on there. And I think my passion and interest in organ donation has grown a ton since starting with SODA. It's definitely blossomed into a much more central part of my life than it was prior to working here, which is really cool and unique.
Yeah, it is. And could you sort of describe the role of Soda a little bit more and the sort of mission of the organization?
Yeah, so SODA's main goal is to support student-led organ donation advocacy on high school, college, and now graduate school campuses as well, which is an exciting addition. So I'd say essentially what we try to do is to eliminate any of the boundaries or sort of things that discourage people from participating in organ donation advocacy. So we do that in a number of ways, which I'm sure I'll touch on a little bit more, but brief overview of some of the things we provide for our students to make sure they feel supported and that they can continue doing organ donation advocacy. Our mentorship, like I mentioned, which is my entire purpose of being at SODA. We offer some funds to our chapters and also students who host events, and we also have supplies and how-to guides. So eliminating the barriers to being an organ donation advocate, I'd say, is our main goal for students.
Yeah, that's actually great. And what sort of motivated you to go to the college campuses? Because ODAC is more geared towards high schoolers. Was that a sort of issue that SODA saw that needed to be addressed, especially in college campuses?
Yes, so our founder, Sarah Miller, back in 2014, actually started the first SODA chapter on her college campus. So it was started on a college campus, and then she was hearing from other students at various schools, various colleges, that they were interested in also starting an organization. So we actually started on college campuses and decided to also work with high schools. And I mentioned newer additions being graduate schools. So yeah, sort of just where we started. But yeah, we have leaders kind of across the board and different education levels now, which is really cool.
That's great. And I guess, are there any accomplishments of these student leaders that you would like to highlight, and maybe some of the goals that they have in mind in particular?
Definitely. There are so many amazing student leaders who've done really great things that are super inspiring to me. And I think a couple that come to mind that happened more recently was Whitco High School did a assembly where they invited, I think, like a local religious figure, and they did an educational event about organ donation, and then also raised the Donate Life flag, like a raising of a flag ceremony, which is something unique that I haven't seen another chapter do before. And they also invited their local news station to come and record the event. And that was a really cool feature that they did all on their own, which I thought was really cool and unique to see students really going above and beyond to take that initiative and sort of get that publicity for their events that they spend a lot of time and effort organizing. Another one of our really stellar chapters is University of Alabama. Our chapter there, I think, I wrote down the award that they actually won, the Outstanding Advocacy Organization Award from the University of Alabama. And the president of the chapter, Allison Levine, won the Student Officer of the Year Award. So it was really cool to see their chapter be recognized also by their administration. They did some really large events this year. They put on like a whole dance marathon, guest speaker event that had a ton of participation. And I'd say the events that I'm really looking forward to seeing our students do that are some of my favorites are the Donuts and Donors events, where they essentially just give out free donuts to people who register. Those are that's a really popular event. It's very easy and fun. It attracts a lot of people. So I love to see our chapters doing that. And then another really popular event is our Pizza and Perspective. So putting on a movie or a TV show or discussing an article related to organ donation and giving out pizza at their events. So I love to see our chapters do silly, cute things like that. And then we also have some really outstanding events that go on as well.
Yeah, those definitely sound really fun, and I kind of wish I could go to them now, but live too far
Right?
away. Yeah. Um, and in that like respect, I guess this is a good segue into the next question. What are some of the challenges that the student leaders face in the different chapters have faced, and how do they sort of go through those challenges, and what support do they get from leadership such as yourself?
Yeah, I think deciding to start a SOTA chapter or to start doing donation advocacy on a campus is definitely one of the first hurdles that students might experience. I think it can be intimidating for students, especially if they're on like a newer campus, if they're underclassmen, to participate in a club, let alone start a new club for themselves. So we try to be very supportive of new chapters. And I mentioned we provide over 25 different how-to guides. So in those how-to guides, we have some specifically tailored to chapters that are just getting started for how to find other students who might be interested in their events, how to advertise their events around campus. We provide templates for flyers and social media posts that they can customize. And we also provide events or ideas for events, education events and registration events. So they have something to leap off of in terms of what a timeline could look like. And they don't really have to figure anything out for themselves. At least we try to make sure everything is relatively straightforward for them so that there's not too much having to figure out on the back end, since of course our students are in school, so there's a lot of other factors going on in their lives. So we try to make starting a chapter and hosting events as straightforward as possible. And we also connect our students with their local organ procurement organization, which I think is a really cool aspect of working with SOTA. Because you have that connection to a local organization that can put you in touch with different volunteer opportunities in the area. So if students are looking to branch out from just their school and they just need a little push to learn about different events, that's a really great connection to have as well. So I think those are some of the first couple things that come to mind.
No, I think that's great. Like having those connections at the local levels can really help like jumpstart, like especially those new chapters. And I guess earlier you mentioned like some things that might prevent people from joining like organ donation advocacy. So in your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges or misconceptions around organ donation and tissue donation, especially among student populations? I mean, you went through college, I'm sure you encountered a lot of these myths and misconceptions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that I learned when I joined SOTA, actually, that I didn't know before, was that the when you register to be a donor at the DMV, that's essentially that's a separate donation registry. It's like its own body of donation registry. And then there's another form of donation registry, which is offered by Donate Life America, which is the registerme.org registry. So there's two different registries, which I didn't know. So I'd say something I've heard from our students is that when they're putting on tabling events and they're recruiting new donors, students will come up and say, oh, well, can I take a donut? It's already on my license. I can show it to you. And they still encourage, of course, these students to fill out the registerme.org link so that they're in the second database as well, which I think can sound a little bit confusing to students who aren't as familiar with organ donation. But our students do encourage everyone that approaches the booth to also register for this separate database, even if they are already registered on their license. It's like a dual situation going on. So I didn't realize there were two registries beforehand. I think that's something not a lot of people know as well. So that might be a pretty general misconception.
Yeah, I think that's also a misconception I had until like 10 seconds ago. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I like know Evan Roden also like tried to pass a bill in like Congress that would try to get the question on the when you're on at the DMV changed. So instead of saying opting in, you'd be opting out of organ donation, being an organ donor. That's
Mhm.
actually very interesting. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's great that you're doing tabling events. ODAC also does those.
Mhm.
What do you think are some of the challenges that these tabling events face and like, do you think these in-person events sort of help to get more people to sign up and really get SOTA's recognition up, or do they face some challenges as well?
Yeah, I think that overall, tabling events are some of our students' favorite events to put on. I think that's probably because they see a lot of really great results from having these in-person connections and having the chance to speak face-to-face with students in their community. And I've heard from a number of students that educating their peers seems to be a more productive way of discussing organ donation than if it were to be in like a classroom setting or with an adult. It's a little bit less intimidating to talk about the subject of donation, which can be, sensitive to some and can be a little less lighthearted than other subjects. So it's nice when you're doing it with someone your own age who you feel like you can relate to. So I've gotten that feedback from our students a bit. So I think the in-person aspect is definitely helpful, and doing it on their campuses where they're interacting with people their own age is another really unique aspect of SOTA. And we just calculated our impact numbers. I have them written down here. So from last semester alone, our students registered 1,155 people and educated 23,430 people. So I'd say that the tabling events, whether that be focused on educating or registering, definitely played a role in those numbers, which is really cool. In terms of challenges, I'd say I don't know I've only been to a handful of tabling events that our students have put on, and I haven't noticed too many challenges. Again, I think maybe that misconception of, oh, well, I'm already registered, so can I take your free stuff now, or do I have to fill out this second form online? Could maybe be a little bit, again, that misconception there that they have to maneuver through and educate people on. So maybe that could be one of the challenges that they face.
Yeah, thank you. That those are great numbers also. Well, congratulations. And I guess there's a lot of advancements and developments in organ donation in the field. And so how does SOTA try to stay updated on these and try to get their different branches as well? Keep everybody updated, I guess, and up to date. Because a lot of people, I feel like, read the news and not everything they see on the news is
Mhm.
right information. So how does SOTA sort of combat that?
Yeah, definitely. I know I mentioned that we do work with local organ procurement organizations or OPOs. So I'd say those OPOs, we consider them to be the organ donation experts. So they really relay all of their knowledge to our student leaders, and we really encourage our chapter leaders to reach out to their OPO whenever they have an organ donation related question. So yeah, I'd say OPOs are our number one resource for getting that educational material out there to our students and also to us as well. And our staff does attend a couple conferences. I think we do conferences once a quarter. So we went to the Donate Life America conference back in October. That was a huge educational moment for me. I feel like I learned a ton there. And then we're also going to an AOBO conference, which is connected with OPOs again next month. So we'll be learning a lot more. It's a really cool opportunity to have discussions with people because a lot of my work is virtual. So it's really cool to connect with people in person. And it's really meaningful to get to hear people's stories as well. So I'd say OPOs and various conferences are probably how I learn and our students learn the most about organ donation.
Yeah, that's great. It's amazing how like you guys are keeping your chapters really connected to the local
Mhm.
sort of organizations as well. And I guess sort of coming back to you, what do you enjoy most about working with student organ donation advocates and these leaders?
Yeah, there's so many really cool aspects of my job. But my favorite that I think I touched on already is getting to meet with our chapter leaders and get their feedback and learn updates on what they're doing in their personal lives or even just like as a chapter. So it's really cool to have those connections with students all across the country. And I recently conducted student testimonial interviews where we basically just asked some of our chapter leaders what their most meaningful moments have been as a donation advocate. And that was an opportunity for me to have a longer conversation with a lot of our students. So I got to learn in more depth how their chapter operates and how donation plays a role in their life, even outside of SOTA, and how being a chapter member and a chapter leader for some has given them this like really cool niche on their campus where they feel like they have a family there and people who understand them on a deeper level. So it's really meaningful to get to have those conversations with students. And it's really inspiring and definitely inspire me in a lot of aspects of my job. And a lot of the feedback that I bring to our program director is based off of things I hear directly from students. So it's really cool to see that although they might not know it, a lot of things that they say we take and we legitimately work on them. So yeah, I love just meeting with our students. And we have high school, college, and graduate levels, so it's really interesting to see like the growth there and the difference in the chapters. Yeah, it's just a really cool, unique aspect of my job that I don't think a lot of people get to say they get to do.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's actually amazing. And I guess earlier you also mentioned that SOTA operates on like a lot of different levels, like even graduate level, the undergrad, even high schools, I guess at some point. So have you experienced some sort of criticism or pushback from individuals that belong to like these different generations, like younger generations, like their parents, and like older generations, perhaps like they're more independent usually, so they can form their own opinions through college. And how does SOTA sort of deal with this kind of pushback or criticism?
Yeah, so in general, I'd say the feedback I get from our students is surprisingly the opposite of criticism, especially from adults. I've heard from a lot of our chapter leaders that when they go out into their communities and do advocacy or even just comments on their social media from community members, that adults are really supportive of the work they're doing. Um, so that's really cool. And we love to see students feeling empowered by people older than them as well. Because although communicating with your peers is really an awesome thing to do and a really unique resource, having that adult support is really meaningful as well. And interestingly enough, I did one of our student testimonial interviews with Scotty Torrance, who's the president of our graduate level chapter at the University of Nevada, Reno School of Medicine. And she was also a leader at her undergrad chapter. And she told me that she feels actually more supported by adults as she's gotten older and worked with SOTA. And she feels like maybe as someone in the medical field that her opinion on donations really well respected and taken really well by people of different ages now. So I think that's interesting because I asked a similar question in my interviews and I was expecting a different answer than what I was given, but a lot of students feel really supported and it's very uplifting when they hear the comments from adults saying, oh, we're so proud of you or keep it up and things like that. So I think overall there's a lot of positive feedback from adults for our chapter leaders.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that actually. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I guess that's a good way to end the next question as well, where what advice would you give to a young person or really any aged person who wants to have an impact on their society, especially through organ donation and advocacy, but they aren't really sure how to go about doing it and they're maybe like feeling nervous and unsure where to even start?
Mhm. Yeah, so I also asked this question in other words to our student leaders. So I will adapt the answer that I heard from all of them, which was to just jump right in. They all acknowledged how scary it can be to start something new, especially when you have peers around you, or if it's a newer campus or something like that. But the payoff once that you take that leap and you take that jump is really great. And of course, lean on anyone who is there to support you. Talk to your family and friends about what you're interested in, and don't be afraid to pursue whatever your passion might be. If it's organ donation advocacy in particular, I think getting connected with your OPO is a really, really great first step. They can put you in touch with different volunteer opportunities. They can put you in touch with SOTA. Or yeah, any organization that works with youth, I think, is a really great thing to look into if that's something you're interested in, whether that's for organ donation or another topic in general. I think there's a lot of support out there, and just taking the time to research what you're interested in and not being afraid to pursue that is probably the best advice I can give.
And I also had like another question for you where you said you're a public health major.
Yeah.
So how do you think that's helped in your journey through SOTA and your
Mm.
work here? Do you think it's contributed much to your work, or do you feel like if you'd chosen another major like economics, you would have still had the same experiences?
Yeah, so public health, I actually had never heard of really before I went to Tulane, and I was like, oh, we'll just try it out, whatever. And I ended up loving it. I thought I would like psychology, but it was like too scientific for me. And I think public health is interesting because it's like psychology on a macro scale for society, and like determining the behaviors of society and like the different aspects and everything. Um, and I think it definitely gave me a little bit more insight into the medical field. I learned a lot about our healthcare system here. And at one point, I was considering pursuing a master's degree related to healthcare. So I definitely feel like that education and like the knowledge I have about our healthcare system, it supplements what I do in my work and what I learn about in the field of donation in general. So that's probably been some of the most useful information I learned from a public health degree. But it's a really interesting field of study. There's like a lot of different aspects to it, which is cool because you can take it really in any direction you want and apply it to like any organization, or any field. So I think that's like the most unique aspect of it. So there's broader themes that definitely are applied to my job very frequently, that I picked up over like 4 years of just learning them over and over and over again. So it's definitely a really unique major. And a lot of students who are interested in like the medical field also, I feel like, dabble with public health. So I always encourage it to students who maybe like don't know what they're super interested in, because that's kind of covers everything.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that advice, and I'll also take that to heart. And if at this moment there's like anything else you'd like want to talk about or mention about SOTA yourself, your work, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything that came to mind. Starting a chapter is super easy. If anyone's interested, they can check out our website, sodanational.org. It's just a quick little eligibility quiz, and then finding at least 3 students to join you, and then our application, which is really straightforward. Or if anyone wants to host a one-off advocacy event, that's another option as well. Pretty much the same steps for applying for that. And we're always here to support any students who are interested in donation advocacy. So yeah, this was really a cool opportunity. I'm glad you had some great questions. I'm really glad we got to chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. You like answered very eloquently, so thank you.